And as I mentioned, we're going to shoot for 2 minutes or less on each problem. And here's how I would go about it. A kite frame consists of 2 perpendicular pieces of wood placed along the diagonals. Decorative binding will be placed along the perimeter. So as I get to an important word, I always underline to focus myself. To the nearest 1/10 of an inch, how much binding is needed. So what I'm looking for is this, plus this, plus this, plus this. That's the perimeter. And I'm going to write myself a little note here. QR plus QT plus TS plus RS. That's going to give me the perimeter, okay? Now, I see that this is 15 and this is 15. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. I know if the legs are X, then the hypotenuse is X root 2. I'm going to zoom in a little. Which means if I want to find QT and these are 15, then QT is 15 times the root of 2, and QR is also 15 times the root of 2. Because these are 15, so that makes that 15 root 2. Now, on the perimeter here, I've got TS and RS, and those sides, I need to know the hypotenuse, okay? So what I did is I found the slant, TS, by using the Pythagorean theorem, because this is 15 and this is 25. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I know 15 squared is 225. 25 squared is 625. I added them together and got 825. Sorry, 850. And I square rooted both sides, and I got approximately 29.15. She pointed out a mistake I made, so that's why I gave her extra credit. You too. 29.15. So that's going to be this 2 slanted ones. And if I add those 4 together, I'll get the perimeter. Now, I have a root there. I know that that's equal to 1.7, but I'll go ahead and use my calculator at this point to add them together and see what I get. So I do 2, and then I push the square root button, and I'm going to do times 15, and that'll be QR. And now I'm going to double it so that I can get QT, plus that's going to be 29.15 plus 29.15. And that gives me 100.73, but it says to the 10th, so that's closer to 0.7 than it is to 0.8. And 100.7 inches is my answer, which as you can see is C. So I hope that was less than 2 minutes. I'm going to keep barreling on. Unless you have a question, raise your hand. Okay, number 2, verify the segments with lengths 21, 72, and 75 form a triangle. If so, determine if they're a right triangle. So right triangle would mean that 21 squared plus 72 squared equals 75 squared. Okay, so you can just try that out. You know that the longest side is the hypotenuse, right? So it's going to be, I think I can do this on my calculator, 21 squared is 441. 72 squared is 5184. 75 squared is 5625. If that relationship holds true, then it is a right triangle. So 441 plus 5184 equals 56.25. There you go. So yes, it is a right triangle. Okay, number 3, find the value of x. So x is here. I'm looking for x. And write it in simplest form. You may have noticed by now, simplest form means leave it in a square root or whatever, like that, whatever it happens to be. So if this is 45 and this is 90, then that's 45. And in our special right triangles, it's this one, okay, you should recognize that whatever the legs are, they're the same. So that leg is 5, and then the hypotenuse is simply multiplied times the root of 2. So if this is 5, then x equals 5 times the root of 2. That's all there is to it. There's nothing more. And let's see. For sure, I should be okay on time now because that didn't take us more than 30 seconds. If you have not made your card yet, because I didn't check, make it tonight. Do it. Get it done. Okay. Number 4 says find the values of x and y. Write your answer in simplest form. So again, we're going to have 2 values for this one. But you'll notice it's a 30, 60, 90, which I have a card for. All right. So just as a review, the x here, the x is across from the 30. So that's your shortest side. That's your x. So if this is the shortest side and this is my x, the leg is equal to x root 3. Okay, so what this means is that 5 is equal to x times the root of 3. So you can solve for what x is, divide both sides by root 3. But you have to rationalize it, because we can't have square roots in the denominator. So I get that x is equal to 5 root 3 over 3. So if x here is equal to 5 root 3 over 3, the hypotenuse is always twice that much. So 2 times 5 root 3 makes this 10 root 3 over 3. And that is how that works. So now I need to find x equals 5 root 3 over 3 and y equals, so it looks like this one. Again, you don't have to do all the work for that. You just need your special right triangle pattern to remember that. And we've been practicing it now for a few weeks. So hopefully by now it's sunk in. Now number 4, questions, raise your hand, unmute yourself. I'm looking at my list of participants, so if I see any hands, okay. Then I have to turn the page. To get to number 5. Okay, number 5. A yield traffic sign has the shape of an equilateral triangle, the side length of 36. So an equilateral triangle is like this, 60, 60, but it's asking me what is the height of the sign. I'm going to cut it down like this. That makes it a 30, 60, 90. And this is what we're looking for, this right here, the height. Okay, it tells me that the side length is 36. So remember, this is your short side down here across from the 30. The hypotenuse is twice as much. So that means the short side is 18. Because 18 times 2 is 36. It also means that this side here is 18 times the root of 3. That's our pattern. Okay? So then it's asking me, what is the height of the sign? And I have 18 root 3, but these are all in decimals, so let's multiply that. So 3 square root 1.732 times 18 gives me 31.17 blah, blah, blah. And that looks like 31.2 if you round it to the nearest tenth. Okay. Calculator work. I think we're doing pretty good on time. Is everybody okay? Wish I could at least see you and have your heads shake up and down, you know. Okay, number 6. A 12-foot ladder is leaning up against the side of a house. The ladder makes an angle of 60 degrees with the ground. How far up the side of the house does the ladder reach? Round your answer to the nearest tenth. Okay, so this involves something that I can draw a picture of. So I'm going to do it because I like pictures. So I've got a 12-foot ladder. That's my ladder. Here's my house. And it says the ladder makes an angle of 60 degrees with the ground. So if this is my ground, then this is 60. Lo and behold, this is the house. This is what I'm looking for. This is 30. So again, this is my 30, 60, 90. I've got the hypotenuse. I've got the shortest side across from the 30. And the shortest side, remember, is half of the hypotenuse. So this is going to be 6. And then the leg, this is flipped, but the leg will be 6 root 3. Okay? And you'll notice, 6 root 3, I don't know what it is in decimals, but I know that's 1.7 times 6, so about, if I eyeballed it and approximated it, 6 times a little less than 2 will be a little less than 12. So if I had to guess, I would guess D. But let's do our calculator anyway. There's root 3. There's times 6, 10.4. Okay, and I keep plugging away. Now we're on the third section, because that was the second section, special right triangles. Third section was where we had those other theorems. We started out with geometric mean. Find the geometric mean of 6 and 9. The definition of the geometric mean is just the square root of the product of those numbers. Okay. So the square root of 9 is 3, which means it's A. That's a straight definition. Everybody should be able to get that one done. Number 8. The altitude to the hypotenuse of a right triangle has a length of 12. Okay, so here's my altitude. What could be the lengths of the two segments of the hypotenuse? So you'll notice the big one is here, and what they're asking you to do here is distinguish between this part of the hypotenuse and this part of the hypotenuse. So we had a theorem that said that the altitude squared, this one squared, is equal to the two parts of the hypotenuse multiplied. So this is 12. We don't know these. But we do know that 12 squared is 144. So the question becomes, what two numbers down here will give you 144 when you multiply them? Clearly it's not A or B. And D is 180. So I'm going to guess it's 6 times 24, but I will check it with my calculator. 6 times 24 is 144. Yay, so that's for sure what it is. And that is the theorem from section 3, where this altitude is equal to this green part times this orange part. Any questions? Okay, you're all extra quiet today. Number 9. Just watching my clock. Okay, we have 22 minutes. I think we're doing well. Find AB if necessary. Give the answer in simplest radical form. So, we want AB. So we want AB. Let's call that X. Okay? We can use this same theorem that we used here, right? So it's going to be 10 squared equals 5 times X. 10 squared equals 5 times X. Now we got X to be 20, but the question says find AB. So AB is 20 plus 5. So AB is 25. So even if you got 20 and you put that in, you'd get it marked wrong. Okay, the computer doesn't see how your 20 is related to 25 in any way. It's just going to check it against 25. So make sure you're always answering the question being asked. Pop your hand up if you have questions. Okay, number 10 asks the questions, what is X? But it's on the next page, and because I have it zoomed in, I've got to turn it over. So here we are. We've got a very similar picture here, right? It wants us to find X, which is right here. I have the same picture as I did before. So if we were in class together, I'd be like, okay, how many of you know the answer? And I'd have you raise your hand, or at least how to get the answer. So to apply it, we're going to do 6 squared equals 8 times X. Because in this right triangle, this is the hypotenuse. These are the two parts of the hypotenuse. We should be able to figure out X this way. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. 36 divided by 8 gives me 4.5. Notice it doesn't say find Y, it just says find X. So sometimes you'll see stuff in a picture that's just extraneous, to make sure you're focused. Any questions? Section 3. Because what we're going to do now is move on to section 4, which is tangent. Okay, what is tan K? Remember that tangent ratio, the tangent of an angle, is equal to the opposite side or opposite leg over the adjacent leg. It's the TOA, SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so if I want to know tangent of K, and the opposite is all the way over here, it's not connected to it at all. So tan K equals 24 over the adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. Adjacent is the one that's connected to it. Okay, it's the other leg that is connected. And if I look here, I go, oh, you know what? I don't see my answer. Then I would notice, it has to be reduced. So if you put this in, you'll be wrong. But general rule is, if you can, you must. So if you can reduce, you must reduce. These are actually both divisible by 3. And so 8 over 17 is the answer I'm looking for. That was section 4. Section 5 was SOHCAHTOA, sine. So we're going to do sine. So equals opposite over hypotenuse. We're going to find the sine of F and the sine of G. So the sine of F is, so I start with F. My opposite side is 96. My hypotenuse is 100. Sine G. Now I go here. Now my opposite side for G is 28 because it's all the way across. So ka toa, and then my hypotenuse is the same. And again, if you can reduce, you must. So I notice all of the answers here are in decimal form. So I changed that to a decimal, which is 0.96. Changed that to a decimal, 0.28. And I'll see where my answers are. Where it says sine F is 0.96, sine G is 0.28. So that's. Another thing we noticed in section 5, was it 5 or 4? No, it must have been. This is 5, section 5. We figured out that we can write cosine in terms of sine and sine in terms of cosine because these two are opposite, which means they complement each other. The sine of one is the complement, is the cosine of the complement, and the cosine of one is the sine of the complement. So if I want to write 16 in terms of the sine, cosine 16 is equal to sine of the complement. And that is sine 74. Which is B. And if it said sine here, it'd be the opposite with the cosine. Hope everybody's good on that. That's from section 5. Now we're going to move on. No, I think we're doing a sine here. Sorry, sine. A skateboard ramp makes a 22-degree angle with the ground. There's my 22. To the nearest foot. How high is the ramp? So I'm looking for this. That's my question. Now that I know I'm looking for this, and I have an angle, I have to figure out which ratio to use. So this is the opposite over the adjacent. Those are the two I'm given, which means I'm going to use the tangent. Opposite over adjacent. I can multiply both sides times 32. And use my calculator. So 22 tangent. With this one, I do it backwards. I do the number first, the angle first, and then the button. And then I'm going to do times 32. Okay, and that's 12.93. So if this is 12.9 and it's said to the nearest foot, then the answer I would put is x equals 13. Now, if you put x equals 12.9 and it said foot and it's expecting 13, you could get it marked wrong. So please be careful about how you follow the directions and what the problem is looking for. The computer is kind of dumb that way. Any questions? I'm just pausing, right, to see if there are any. But we're looking good. We still have another 13 minutes, and we have 7 problems left. And that's why I always start with the idea of, well, how many minutes do I have per problem? So try to keep it under 2. A camera is mounted at a point 4,100 feet in the base of a rocket launching pad. Assuming the rocket rises vertically, what is the height of the rocket from its base when the camera is 27 degrees up? So I'm going to draw a little picture because I got a camera down here. I got a rocket over here, and it's going upward. Okay, it said, so it's mounted 4,100 feet from the base. So this is 4,100. and it says the rocket rises vertically. What is the height that it rises when the camera angle is 27? So part of this is just getting the right picture. I would always draw it. If I were you, even if you're just using scratch paper, draw the picture. Make sure you know what you're doing. So this one, again, it looks like we're going to use opposites over adjacent, which you know is tangent. So the tangent of 27 is equal to x over 4100. X is equal to 4100 times tangent 27. Again, I grab my calculator. I'm going to put in 27. Then I'm going to press my tangent button. And then I'm going to multiply times 4100. And I get 2089.05. So that looks like, 0.1. And it says round to the nearest foot, which means I'm going to round it to 2089, which happens to be A. Stefan and Angela are building a skateboard ramp with dimensions shown. To find the height of the ramp, that's this, Stefan says they should use the expression 36 sine 29. Angela says they should use 36 cosine 29. Whose expression is correct? What error did the other person make? What is the height of the ramp? Round answers to the nearest tenth. So, again, I'm looking at what I have in the picture. I have this angle. Here's my opposite side. Here's my hypotenuse. So I need opposite over hypotenuse. And that, of course, is sine. So you need sine of 29 equals x over 36. When you do the cross product, you get x equals 36 times the sine of 29. So Stefan was correct. Angela mixed up adjacent and opposite. The height of the ramp in the nearest tenth will be this calculation. So 29 sine times 36. 17.45. So that's going to, so we're going to do that. It said the nearest tenth. So that's going to be 17.5 feet. Stefan is correct. Questions? Okay. Number 17, a helicopter. Pilot sights a landmark at an angle of depression of 22 degrees. The altitude of the helicopter is 1450 to the nearest foot. What's the distance from the helicopter to the landmark? Okay. This one, I don't like, and I'm going to skip it for now. If we have time, we'll come back to it because the picture is tricky, and I prefer to get more done than that first. And there's nothing, it's just, for right now, I'm going to skip it. And that's okay for you to do too. You can skip a problem and come back to it when you have time at the end. Just remember not to skip it. Okay, number 18, a blueprint of a table is shown below. What is the area of the table to the nearest tenth in square foot? So now we don't have a right triangle. We're in section 9.7. And the area formula, picture not to scale, I don't know by heart. Okay? And so if I don't know it by heart, I'm going to grab my notes. So grabbing my notes. I know I'm in 7 because 7 is the only section without square roots. So I go here to section 7, and I know that the area formula is here. Area formula is here. So if you have angle A, it's BC over 2 sine A. If you have angle B, it's AC over 2. And if you have angle C, it's AB over 2. So let's figure out which angle we have, and then we've got that formula. If I call this A, and this B, and this C, then across from here is little a, across from here is little b, and across from here is little c. So I have A and C, I have angle B, which means I'm going to use the area formula of, I have A and C, so it's going to be A, C, sine B over 2. Let me just check. AC sine B over 2. Okay. See how that works? You just check yourself each time. So then area is equal to 6 times 5 times the sine of, that's an 80, and I divide that by 2. It's just a calculation. So grab our calculator. 6 times 5 is, well, let's do sine 80 first. So 80 times the sine button. Now I'm going to do times 30 divided by 2 equals. So I get 14.77. It's going to be feet squared. And it says the nearest tenth, so that rounds up to 14.8. Since this is multiple choice, yay, there we go. I got 14.8. Okay, we've got 4 more minutes. Use the given measurements to solve ABC and round to the nearest tenth. We got ABC. Okay. So this is B, this is C, this is A. Here's my little A. Here's my little B. Here's my C. Now, I know that I'm going to either use the law of cosines or the law of sines, but what I would do is go through and notice that this is 2 sides and the included angle. So the only option we have is the law of cosines on this, because you can't solve it with the law of sines. Law of sines is for other but if you see side, angle, included side, then you have to use the law of cosines for this. And since I have A and C and angle B, I'm going to be using this version. A squared plus C squared minus 2AC times the, law of cosines, 2AC cosine of angle B. From there, it's just a plug and chug. B squared, that's what we're looking for, equals A is 23 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 23 times 11 times the cosine of 63. Again, this is a bunch of calculation. So what I'm going to do is I'll do these separate and I'll write them down. In case I make an error, it'll be easier than starting all over. So 23 squared plus 11 squared gives me 650 for that first part. And then this here, I'm going to start with my cosine, 63 cosine times 11 times 23 times 2, and I get 229.72 So I'll subtract that. 420.28. Remember that's b squared. I want b, not b squared. So this is when I press the square root button, and I get 20.5. I mentioned to you yesterday, you're not going to have any like super convoluted problems like this where you have to solve all three, but you'll notice, okay, B is exactly this one. So I don't even have to figure out the other ones. Of course, I would still do the work if there's a blank there, but on multiple choice, I'm just going to choose B here. Oh, and also, this is 21 problems, but your quiz is only 12. So you should be good on time, okay? And of course, we're on 20 and 21. If you can and want to stay, it is going to be 12:20 and class is technically over. If you want to stay and have me watch these, if you want to stay and watch me finish these, I will do that. But I'll put the recording of this online so you could look at these two later as well. So you are dismissed. I'm going to finish these two. Okay, I'll see you all tomorrow. Ready for your quiz. So shelf extends perpendicularly 26 from the wall. You want to place a 32-inch brace as shown. To the nearest tenth, how far below the shelf should the brace be attached? Okay, so we're looking for this. What angle does the brace make? And what angle does the brace make with the shelf? So we're looking for the third leg, or the second leg of a square, of a right triangle. So I'm going to do 32 squared equals 26 squared plus x squared. Call that x. So this is just going to be a calculator problem. 32 squared minus 26 squared gives me 676 equals x squared. I happen to know what that is. So then x equals 26. Okay, good. So this one, we're done with A. Now, to the nearest degree, what angle does the brace make with the wall? So the wall is here. So this is B. I'm trying to make a fancy B, but that's this will be part B, angle C. So this is angle C. Okay, when I have side, 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 again, I have to use the law of cosines. And if I want to find angle C, so this is part B. If I want to find angle C, then I have to do C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times the cosine of C. And I have ABC, so then I'll just have to solve for that. I hope I have enough room here. Little c is 26. A is across from A, so that's 26. B is across from B, so that's 32. 26, 32, cosine C. So I'm going to be doing calculator work to figure this out. And I get 0.6154 equals cosine of C. And remember, this is the inverse part, where if you have the ratio and you want the angle, with this on the screen, this is where I'm going to do the shift button, shift, and then go to cosine. And that gives me approximately 52.0 degrees to the nearest degree, so that'll give me 52 degrees. And then to the nearest degree, what angle does the brace make with the shelf? If this is 52 and this is 90, then you're going to use the triangle sum theorem, so that angle A is equal to 180 minus 90 minus 52, and that will give me 30. So A, B, C. Last, a stone wall forms a 63-degree angle with the side of a house that is 10 yards long. A fence is being constructed that will form an 80-degree angle with the house. As shown, how much fencing must be used? Okay, so there is a picture. Okay, so 63 and 80 with 10 yards long. So I want to know how much fencing must be used to enclose the area between the house and the stone wall. Close the area. So am I looking for the area? I think I'm just looking for the area. Yeah. So what you're going to have to do is solve this triangle as best you can. You're given these two angles, and then you can use the law of sines for this. So let's see, this is A, and this is B, and this is C. And the angles, and this is B, and this is A, this is C. So we can use the law of sines. So we would do, say, A over sine 63 equals 10 over sine of whatever B is, and we have to solve for B. So B is 180 minus 80 minus 63, so B is 37. We can solve for that. So you do the cross product. You get A equals 10 times the sine of 63 divided by the sine of 37. You get a calculator work. So 63 sine times 10 is 8.9 something. Then you divide it by 37 sine, and you get 14.8. And so I'm going to put A as 14.8. House and stone wall, between the house and the stone wall. So I want to find all the area. Do I have enough for the area formula? So my area formula, remember my area formula. I'm going to go back here and look. For this, when I had B, it was AC sine B. So now I have A and B, and I can use C. So it can be A, B, sine C over 2. That's one that would work. Okay. So the area is equal to 14.8 times B is 10. Sine of C is 80. I'm going to divide that by 2. This is all calculator work. And I'm going to do 80 sine times 10 times 14.8 equals divided by 2. I did something wrong because I'm only getting these And clearly, between the house and the stone wall. House, stone wall. This is the area. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I will, how much fencing must be used? Fencing. Well, it's not looking for area. It's looking for perimeter. I answered the wrong question. That's okay. To enclose the area between the house and the stone wall. So here's the house, and here's the stone wall, which means this is fence. Oh, so all I needed to do was find 14.8. I did too much. That used the law of sines. That's your answer. Okay, good practice. Also good to know what question you're answering. It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes sometimes, and it's okay. So I found the fence, and I'm going to be done so I can end this, and I hope that you all will be able to do super well on tomorrow's quiz.